Everyone's favorite 90% women-led disaster, Ubisoft.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and this Ubisoft situation, dude, it is crazy how rapidly it is evolving and how, according to plan, it is going, if you will. In our last Assassin's Creed Shadows video, I said it would be such a Ubisoft way to go out by selling off to Tencent, who we knew already had a stake in the company. They put it in at just the right time, as we'll talk about later in this video, where they were planting the seed for when Ubisoft's knees buckled a little bit to swoop on.
Narrative designer, by the way. What can we see here? Probably 40. Most likely single. Most likely childless, because that's pretty much a requirement to get into Ubisoft. And narrative director, very cool, very cool. I'm sure she's not gonna add a bunch of vitriol and hateful shit in the game because, you know, her life is a disaster. Very Ubisoft indeed.
In and get that acquisition done, and it looks like there are talks happening right now about that. Now, what's really interesting is, as we've tracked in our recent Ubisoft coverage, the share price for this company has been steadily declining, and
beautiful.
Now it's up because there's rumors of a buyout that's about to happen. So people are looking to invest now, and if there's a payment of a premium per share, people are going to make some good money, I think, on.
I think, no, I don't think there's a way to buy out company without offering a premium for the shares. I don't think it's possible.
This investment, but that's if the buyout happens. We have this report from Bloomberg to get into, but also an open letter from a minority stakeholder in Ubisoft that shines a light on some interesting things happening within the company and how pretty much the Guillemot family alongside Tencent has positioned things to be very advantageous for themselves, even when the company is doing this poor. So we're going to talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. As I said a few videos ago, with this whole...
That is true. Ubisoft may collapse, but there's going to be people who benefit from it.
Ubisoft thing, I'm super fascinated by how quickly it's moving, how interesting it is. So I'm all in, and I'm going to be covering it until whatever happens. My prediction still being that they're going to sell off to Tencent, but we'll see when that time comes. But until then, if you're interested in what's going on with...
By the way, just want to point this out again. I was right. I told you about Ubisoft's collapse, and it's probably going to be over for them because they're not going to be able to continue this. You can't be Ubisoft and launch 3 complete disasters in a row. First was Skull and Bones, which already ruined their reputation massively. Then it was everyone's favorite, well, current day experience of Star Wars Outlaws, which undersold tremendously and is most likely in the ballpark of 200 million in the negative in their profit margins. And then there's going to be Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is probably going to be even more expensive than Star Wars Outlaws and even less profitable, which is insane. Ubisoft, as a company, cannot continue existing.
But Ubisoft, consider subscribing. So while the original information came from Bloomberg, we're going over to GameSpot because I'm not paying for Bloomberg. And so GameSpot writes, Ubisoft is reportedly considering a major change to its structure. Ubisoft and Tencent are reportedly considering...
It's those 10% damn males that are left in the company. They are responsible for everything bad that is happening. Ubisoft must get rid of the evil male gaze.
Different options in order to stabilize the business and prevent further stock price drops. According to Bloomberg, Ubisoft's Guillemot family and Tencent have reportedly discussed turning Ubisoft private, or even Tencent potentially buying out the company. These discussions are reportedly still at an early stage, so it might be a while before we see any results. There's also no guarantee that the discussions will bear fruit, but Tencent and the Guillemot family are reportedly open.
Tencent typically doesn't buy out shit. That's the thing that I was that's kind of confusing me. Tencent is the company that buys like 20% of your whatever thing you are making shares, and they don't even actually intervene because they only buy shares of a company if they think it's doing good currently. Now Ubisoft is clearly a mistake, or maybe they are planning to just take over Ubisoft, which would be hilarious. But typically Tencent doesn't do this. So this is slightly strange, and I can't really figure out what's happening here. Did Tencent do this in hopes that Ubisoft collapses? That probably makes sense to someone who doesn't understand finances, but for anyone who understands finances, it's completely nonsensical to say that. Why the fuck would you invest as Tencent in a company that's going under and is not performing well? Why? If you want to buy them out when the share price is lower because they're doing a poor job. So I think this is most likely chalkable upable to Tencent actually making a mistake. I think Tencent most likely just made a mistake in their analysis of Ubisoft and their potential.
Into other alternatives. Now, for those who aren't caught up on Tencent and what's going on here, I saw some of the preliminary reactions. I did do what I typically don't, and that's kind of like sniff around social media, sniff around some videos, just kind of get a feel of the temperature of what people say about Tencent. And some people were like, okay, cool. And I'm like, I don't know if you really, I know Ubisoft is kind of in a shitty spot right now, but I don't know if you really want Tencent taking over. And let me break down why, because we talked about them pretty extensively over on Last Stand Media. Tencent is very fascinating in that they are really good at smelling when a company's knees are about to buckle.
They're really good at being China, by the way, because Tencent is, by the way, China.
Giving them a little bit of life with their money, and when they really start to weaken because they crippled themselves, as you're seeing here with Ubisoft, they swoop on in and get ready for the buyout. There is a 2020 article that is here from PC Gamer highlighting the companies that Tencent has invested in because they are that widespread, from Riot Games to 40% in Epic Games. They have money in Sony. They have money everywhere in this industry. They are quietly the most powerful company in the industry, and they have been pushed back against so.
Yeah, but again, you can literally see from the list of games that is shown here. Okay, let's go back. So let's see. Riot Games, League of Legends. Yeah, but I mean, this is slightly
that is here
different.
From PC Gamer highlighting the companies that
Epic Games 40%. Epic Games is doing fine. Epic Games is Fortnite.
Tencent has invested in because they are that widespread, from Riot.
Bluehost, PlayerUnknown Battleground. They did not buy PlayerUnknown Battleground because it was doing bad. Tencent investment into Bluehost first began in 2017. That is when this game started popping off. Again, Tencent does not have a history of buying out shitty companies. They don't do that. Tencent is investment holdings thing. They investing into things that give them a return for their investors. That's what Tencent does. It's pretty much a hedge fucking fund.
Riot Games to 40%.
Ubisoft, well, clearly they don't see a lot of potential in Ubisoft, but 5% is like, okay, it's a big company. Maybe they're going to get back on the feet, so let's invest a little bit.
And Epic Games, they have money in Sony, they have money.
Activision, Blizzard, 5%. They probably can get more. Blizzard's not exactly struggling, but, you know, their share prices. Let me check how their share price are doing, because this is one of those gaming companies I actually have. Okay, let's see. Investments. There is Activision Blizzard. I don't even remember how much of their stock I actually have. Or did I not have any Blizzard? Oh, no, right, I don't have any Blizzard. But Blizzard's not doing that badly. I should maybe buy some Blizzard. Oh, no.
Everywhere in this industry. They are quietly the most powerful.
Grinding Gear Games, again, not really something that's doing poorly. Not at all. Grinding Gear Games with Path of Exile are doing absolutely wonderfully. And you know what Tencent does when they take over a company like this? They actually just let them keep on. Tencent just lets the people who are in charge of making the game good when they buy it, of keeping it good when they buy it.
Full company in the industry, and they have been pushed back against so much by people that they rebranded part of their company to Level Infinite, which you actually see in Jeff Keighley's Game Awards very often. They are loaded with cash, and they are helping out great companies even like Remedy, who I'm interested to see how long they can remain independent, because their games typically have a very long tail for sales and they don't rocket off the charts, even with Alan Wake 2, which had phenomenal reviews.
Alan Wake 2 is so fucking done. Shut up. Alan Wake 2 is woke. It has no future.
It was still very slow out the gate. It felt like this was the breakout moment for Remedy. Like, it got its big awards at the Game Awards, but it really wasn't breaking out beyond that. But as always, Remedy games just pick up steam over time, and they take these investments, and lately they've been getting close to Tencent. And this is exactly what happened with Ubisoft. They were trying to remain independent. They needed a little bit of a loan, and we had Tencent come in and increase their investment in Ubisoft in 2022, as you see here from this gamesindustry.biz article, where they write that Ubisoft announced a partnership between Tencent and the Guillemot brothers, where they would invest $297 million for a 49.9% stake in the company, which is almost 13% of Ubisoft shares before the deal. It would also provide them a long...
Yeah. Again, I just think this is a mistake. I think Tencent thought that I mean, listen, I'm gonna tell you a secret about finances. No one is ever right. Even Warren Buffett is not always right. The fucker does a lot of crazy shit and fails a lot. But you know what makes you a great investor? It's the fact that you are right most of the time. That's it. That's it. You're not right always. You're not right 90% of the time. You're not right even 80% or 70% of the time. As long as you are mostly right, you're doing fine. You're doing good. And I think this was Tencent just, thinking, well, Ubisoft could do good things in the future. Maybe they're a big brand, blah, 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 Assassin's Creed, all of that good shit. So they're currently struggling. There was stock prices that are, well, at that point, they were also at a record low. This is a great time to swoop in, buy a lot of their shares, and with this investment and influx of capital, probably make a lot of money when they start going up again. I think this is what happened.
Long-term unsecured loan that could be used to buy a larger chunk of Ubisoft. And what we'll get into is this letter here that comes from a significant minority shareholder who writes an open letter that effectively outlines how Tencent and the Guillemot brothers are working together to secure as much of this company as possible and keeping it away from people who maybe have the better interests at heart for what you...
Yeah, that's how stocks work.
Ubisoft can become, because many people think the Guillemot brothers alongside Tencent are kind of holding this company hostage and in turn running it into the ground, potentially.
Tencent's not making any decisions, most likely, for Ubisoft. Again, Tencent just stays out of shit.
To their benefit. Now, I don't know how much of my audience watches sports, in particular baseball. And if you watch baseball, then you're likely familiar with the New York Mets, my favorite team in baseball. And if you're familiar with the Mets, then you've likely heard of their former owners in the Wilpons. And it's a very similar situation there as it was with Ubisoft. For a long time, the Mets fans were really tired.
How about we skip the boring, lame analogy?
Shortstop in Francisco Lindor. Are looking more at the quality of their games and how they can improve those, and they would do so by investing, potentially spending, making it a better team, or in this case, a better game. And so you have the Guillemot family, aka the Wilpons, holding the company hostage because they want to make money, and they make more money by not spending it on things that matter for the team, frankly. I think this letter, which I'm not going to read all of it to you.
Okay, thankfully I got the analogy, even though it's stupid. The Guillemots definitely don't want to relinquish power, but hey, who the fuck wants to relinquish power? It's... People also have this crazy misunderstanding about CEOs and whatnot. No CEO wants to leave a company. They made it. They did what's the thing, and now they have to leave? Of course they don't want to leave. They're the CEO, they're the big cheese, and now they have to leave? Now they have to be removed? No one wants that. No one ever wants that. No one wants to give up even a failing endeavor, especially if that failing endeavor actually was, valuable at a time long past at this point. Okay? No one wants to just relinquish control like that. So the Guillemots are obviously doing everything in their grubby little power to keep hold of Ubisoft because it's their thing. They don't want to be yeeted. Because it's their thing. This is normal.
To save you some time, but I went through all of it is really fascinating in what they've deduced here. But let's just pause for a second before we get into all of that and talk a bit about Tencent potentially taking over Ubisoft. What happens here is Tencent very much is known to incentivize, I would say, pay-to-win tactics. They're very much involved in microtransactions. I look at League of Legends. They had like a $600 skin there, and I'll admit I still play a decent amount of League of Legends, but you see that sort of stuff. And for me personally, that's what pushes me away. It's like I will never.
He says Tencent are really deep with pay to win, but what is win about League of Legends microtransactions?
Ever spend money on this game. I have my Game Pass subscription, so I have all the champs unlocked. That's all personally I need to enjoy a MOBA. But many people go all in, buy those skins, and that's really where Tencent feasts. And when you put Ubisoft out there, who has one foot in the door with this sort of stuff, with what they call time savers, right? Remember that with Assassin's Creed Origins? Like, you can buy XP boosters. And so despite people pushing back against it, Ubisoft continue to include time savers and in-game stores, and typically during review processes, by the way, not just for Ubisoft, but all these companies, these in-game stores are offline because they typically speak to how they are monetizing the game's design. And that is the biggest problem I really have with Tencent as a company, is they monetize a game's design. And Ubisoft already did that. They tried to turn Far Cry 6 into this live service style title. They try to do that for all their games. And they stated this recently in their open letter to investors when they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows. They were like, yeah, we're still focused on open world games and live progs. And I think that's just a bad call. Their games don't fit the live product mold. They just don't have that hook that keeps you wanting to come back. I think they function best as a purely single-player developer. So that's why, for me, I'm against Ubisoft being bought out by Tencent. I think there's a better solution here. This open letter does propose some ideas, but I'm very skeptical with this company. And if you think Ubisoft is already...
It's already too late. It's already too late. What the fuck do you mean? I'm against this. This is what happens when you don't understand what's happening. It's already too late. Tencent already owns everything that they need. Their deal with the brothers or whatever the hell is happening there probably is like Microsoft's deal with Bungie over Destiny 2. Hey, you're doing bad, Chief. We see it. And how about we give you a little bit of money so you can get out of this sticky situation you have found yourself in. But if you don't get us extra returns on our investment, well, then we're gonna take over the company because reasons. That is most likely the situation that Ubisoft is in. And with everything that's happening, Tencent effectively already owns it, and there's not much you can do about it.
Utilizing their IP in a bad way, I feel like Tencent could make matters worse in that regard. It would keep Ubisoft around. It would keep effectively all of their IP around, but they would most likely be used in a very different way. So we'll see what that...
look at how these disgusting peasants bow to the god Yasuke. Bow before he stomps your head into the ground.
That sort of stuff. But what we have here is this open letter from a significant minority shareholder where they talk about their concerns and their proposals. Those proposals being at the bottom of the page where they suggest going private, allowing a sale. They also say change the current management or use the French minority law to collect enough shareholders to start a proxy fight. Now, the most interesting things that stood out to me here was this one right here on what they think has gone wrong here. And they say the control exercised in September 2022 by Tencent and the Guillemot family has effectively blocked potential acquisitions and partnerships that could have been beneficial to the company and its shareholders. More recently, in 2022, private equity firms such as KKR and Blackstone expressed interest in acquiring Ubisoft, but were unable to proceed due to existing agreements.
Of course, Blackstone is interested in buying a own garbage dumpster fire.
Agreements that prevent any single entity from gaining control without Guillemot and Tencent's consent. This was further reported.
By the way, this is such a bullshit statement. This is literally how stonks are supposed to work. Oh, Ubisoft bought 49.9% of the company, and Guillemot is in cahoots with them. So effectively, anything they want to do, they can, because they own combined. They own more than 50% of the fucking shares. Oh, that's so evil. That should not be what the fuck? This is literally how this stuff is intended to work. It's what it's designed to do.
Control without Guillemot and Tencent's consent. This was further reported by Bloomberg as they're seeing...
Yeah, that's how shares in a company work.
on screen here. And this is why I say that Tencent is very, very smart, right? You don't have to be a fan of them, but they're very, very smart in that they just went in when Ubisoft was getting weak. They walled everyone off. Ubisoft probably trusted themselves and they're like, yeah, we'll get back on our feet. We're not going to be cannibalized by Tencent. They gradually hurt themselves over time. And now Tencent's floating around as pretty much one of their few shreds of hope in order to stay.
Dude, Tencent is not happy about this situation. Trust me. This video is a complete pile of fucking bullshit. He has not the slightest clue what he's talking about. Tencent wanted Ubisoft shares to go up. Okay? That's what Tencent wants. This collapse is not actually good for Tencent because they fucking invested more than they're getting out of this garbage dump in this situation. That's the reality of what's happening. Tencent may actually, in fact, be thinking, can we just start selling off things so maybe we could recuperate some of our losses with this shit company? That's what Tencent could be potentially thinking.
Afloat. And I don't think the Guillemot family is going to be like, all right, we're going to back off. Because I think then, like, Tencent...
Whoever was the lead person thinking of investing into Ubisoft probably currently is under a lot of scrutiny in Tencent, and they're clambering to see if it's actually smart to maybe take over Ubisoft. Maybe.
Steps in. Like, I think this doesn't end in a great way, but they write here that they believe the Guillemot family and Tencent are discounting potential values of Ubisoft in order to buy more shares at lower valuation and eventually take full control of the company at a heavy discounted value. We value the great...
Fully bullshit. The company's not doing good. Tencent did not tell Ubisoft, okay, now you need to go full-on woke and destroy everything. Every game that you made for the past 10 years because you're a woke garbage pile now. That's not what Tencent did. Anyway, I'm done here. That was Mr. Batty Plays 10 out of 10. Not a single shred of real information. Have a nice day. Bye.